Great news! With Trinidad Fresh, you get 70% real fruit juice, and it's available in fruit punch, orange, and apple.
Trinidad Fresh.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to this day's episode of See Results. Thank you for joining me live on IBN. Today, I will be taking you through the creative writing aspect of this program. Now, I know this might be the first time for some of you who are now joining us. I just want to say a hearty welcome to all of you and to our very loyal viewers from yesterday. We thank you very much for tuning in again today. And I hope you have benefited as much as possible yesterday from our program. We saw on the Facebook Live some very positive feedback, and we are so happy that, we are able to help you and assist your children in these areas of focus that, that are problematic. And of course, to the parents out there, thank you for your dedication and, making it thank you for your dedication and making it your responsibility, for your child to sit down there and tune in with us and have an opportunity to learn via television. It is an educational program, and as we were saying before, we also have an educational app that a lot of you will be happy to join in. And in fact, a lot of you have already joined that app. It's called Edmodo, for those of you who don't know it. Later on, again, we'll be running through it because I know we have a lot of first-time viewers. So that app there, you can access it, go online and take a quiz where you will be assessed immediately and graded. You can see that grade. We had approximately 41 students taking that test yesterday. Just want to say thank you so much for that. That feedback was remarkable. And I do hope that it brought some benefit to you, right? Okay, so let's go. We're going to be starting with the creative writing aspect of the SEA paper. Now, the SEA exam is coming up in soon, 2020, April 2nd to be exact. Now, that paper comprises of 3 subjects, which would be your mathematics, your ELA, and your creative writing. For those of you who missed the program yesterday, please feel free to go on the SEA Results Facebook page, and you will be able to look at the rerun of the program, the live feed. You can just replay it and have a view of what we did or what we covered yesterday. And if you're unable to do so, I'm just going to recap a little bit about what we did. Yesterday, we kicked off the program with mathematics, and we also had ELA, which was quite interactive, right? We had numerous callers calling, and that was really great. And today we hope to achieve the same. We want everyone to tune in, call in, voice your opinion, give us answers, give us feedback. We are really hoping that you stay with us. You stay tuned with See Results to see results, right? So the creative writing paper is actually 50 minutes long. In that 50 minutes, you'll be given 3 topics. So the topics will either be 3 narrative pieces or 3 expository pieces. And I will break down what these terms mean shortly, right? You are here narrative, you are here expository. Some of you parents, I know you are busy. You may not have had the time to look through what your child has been doing. So I'm going to explain it to you and to your child as well, because sometimes they are in the classroom, they are doing these subjects, they are doing the practice, but they have so much to do, so they are not internalizing what they really should be. So here's an opportunity for you and a child to sit together and to go through this process with us step by step. We are doing it as simple as we can to make it beneficial. Right, so that for 50 minutes for creative writing, you have to plan and execute And plus, you have to revise your piece of writing. So 50 minutes sounds like a long time. It really isn't. That's 50 crucial minutes. In that first 10 minutes or so, you should plan what you are going to write. So based on whatever topic you are given, choose your topic wisely. Choose the one that you will be able to write most about, right? Underline the keywords when you are reading these topics. That will help you to select the best topic, the topic that you will have the most to write about. In that first 10 minutes, what you should do is that you should plan your creative writing. You plan out what you are going to write. And then for the next probably 30 minutes, you should write your paragraphs. So at least 4 to write 5 paragraphs, and that will be easy for you once you have already planned it, right? So that first 10 minutes you are planning. Remember, you're not spending too much time on planning because you are not going to be marked on that planning, which is a little tough, but that's the reality of it. You are not going to be marked on that planning. That planning is only done for you to help you. And then you have to actually write your essay, and then you have to leave some time because you must reread your writing, right? Sometimes these little errors slip us, and when we do that final check over, it's easy, and some of the errors become very visible, and you can change it at once. So the 3 topics here that you will be given will either be narrative or expository. When I say narrative, I mean story writing, narrative, descriptive, or story writing. So narrative is a term that they use for SEA. We know it, or your parents might know it as story writing long ago, or descriptive writing, right? So it's just simply writing a story. And then you have 3 expository items. So remember, it's either or, okay? It's not necessarily that you have 3 narrative and 3 expository. They are randomly chosen. So they're not going to say, okay, in 2020, we are going to bring report writing. That's not how it's done. It's randomly done. So you don't know if your child is going to be given narrative, or if that child has to write report writing as what was given this year. We had report writing as our test piece for creative writing. So this expository item is 3 report pieces that you will have to choose from. Again, when choosing your topic for report writing, now these topics are mostly familiar. They tend to be like write a report about an incident that occurred in the classroom or playground, or maybe when you went on a field trip, write about an experience on a field trip, and they make it local. It's local to Trinidad and Tobago, so it's nothing new to your child, right? And when selecting that topic, you again underline the keywords and choose that topic wisely. More than likely, it's a topic similar to what they have done in the classroom already. So that makes it a lot easier for them to write, because they already have an idea what they are going to write. It's just to plan and execute properly, right? So before we get into today's lesson about for creative writing, I want to go through some of the objectives for ELA writing. Now, why I'm going through these objectives, these are ministry objectives that that your child is marked on, right? And later on, I'll also be going through the rubric for narrative and report writing, so you'll see the difference there. So these objectives here help you to understand what is expected from your child. And students out there, sometimes in the classroom, like I said, you are busy writing, whether it is your narrative piece or your report piece, and you don't fully understand what you have to write. What is my marker looking for? What is Sir Miss looking for? Right? So you must understand what you are going to write, areas to focus on, aspects that you need to focus on, maybe your weak areas. So for example, you have to demonstrate knowledge of narrative and expository writing. So what that means is that if you get an expository piece, you have to know what expository means. You have to know that they are asking you to write a story. Now, in writing a story, there are several things you should know, which we will also cover later on in our program. So what you should know is the style of writing and the format for that writing and the elements involved in narrative writing. And then you have expository writing. Now, parents, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with expository writing, but it's quite different from narrative style writing. It's a report, so there's lots of differences between these two pieces, as we will be examining a little later on, right? You have to use descriptive language and sensory details appropriate to stories. Now, this second point here about descriptive language actually, here, they are actually talking about narrative style writing. We do not, and I repeat, we do not use descriptive writing in your expository style of writing. These objectives are just general, so I'm just giving you an overview of what you have to know for both styles of writing. And then we will go to each one individually and understand them better. Right? And then you have to use figurative language appropriate to stories. Notice they use the word stories. Again, it's for narrative style writing. Moving on, you have to use factual details appropriate to reports. Here's a hint for you. Factual details comes in expository or report style writing. And if you don't fully understand what are factual details, again, I will be more than happy to go through that with you a little later on. Use formal language and tone appropriate to reports. This formal tone here is for report writing. It's not necessarily for narrative style writing, but it is surely for report writing. When I say formal, I mean date, time, etc. Express written ideas clearly and coherently. So your ideas, it must be in sequence. You can't just, have your ideas all over. It must be in a sequence. You are marked individually or separately for sequencing of ideas, organization rather. Moving on, we have to generate a variety of sentence types. The reason, first of all, why this point is highlighted, this is our focus for today. We are going to be focusing on style, on different sentence types. Now, later on, as we move into that, you will understand what I mean by sentence types. Demonstrate accurate use of grammar, spelling, and mechanics, right? This is all part of your ELA, so both of these subjects are very closely linked, ELA and creative writing. So whatever you learn in creative writing or with ELA, you must link them together, okay? So yesterday, we started ELA. So for those of you, like I said, if you missed it, go to the SEA results page, and you will have an opportunity to view the program that was done yesterday. We did a bit of spelling, so the spelling aspect here can be seen yesterday. Demonstrate effective organization of ideas. Again, this is part of organization. Good. So now we are getting closer to what we want to achieve. Here is a rubric for narrative style writing. This rubric here helps your child to understand and helps you to understand where they are going wrong and where they are correct. This rubric here shows 4 different criteria. We have content, language use, organization, and grammar mechanics. So those 4 criteria there, this is where your child is marked. So it's either you gain full marks or you move down the slope and you get lower marks. Our aim is to bring you up to 5s. Each of these criterion here, you should be able to get a full 5 marks, right? Now, this rubric here is available on the Ministry of Education's website, so you can access it there if you are not aware of it, if you don't know how to use it. I will also be going through it with you. Later on in this program, not today necessarily, but what we would like to do is show how we can use this rubric to mark a piece, whether it's narrative or report style writing. And you will see where you as your child and the parents will see where your child has gained marks and where they have lost marks. So if you noticed before, like I said, the 4 criteria: content, language use, organization, grammar, mechanics. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain to you the difference between each of them, and I'm going to tell you what each one of these entail and how you can get full marks in each criterion here. So content. What is content all about? Why am I getting 5 marks for content? What should I write? These are all questions you sometimes ask yourself, right? So for content, you must have certain things here, like setting. You must have character. You must have dialogue. Dialogue refers to speech. And we have the plot. Notice for each of these points, there's a subheading. So notice for setting, you must have a time and a place. As we move on to the introduction of our narrative pieces, when I'm giving you sample pieces, you are going to see how you can include time and place in your setting, as well as in character description, how you are going to use physical description to make your characters come alive, and actions that they can perform to make your story come alive, to give your characters personality. Dialogue. Like we said earlier, dialogue is only used in narrative style writing. We do not use dialogue in report style writing. Rather, we use direct speech. Plot. We have been learning about plots ever since we started writing stories. So by now, I believe that you are sort of familiar with what a plot is and the elements of a story. Second criteria there, language use. What is language use in narrative style writing? We have descriptive and figurative language. When I say descriptive and figurative language, I'm referring to like similes and metaphors. Those are things we use when we want to make our story come alive, to make it more interesting, to bring life to our story. And I will give you examples of those and show you how to use them in your writing, right? Just in case you maybe forgot. So this here is very crucial in earning you 5 top marks. So your descriptive and figurative language must appeal to the reader's sense to help them create mental pictures. So again, this is another reason why we would need descriptive and figurative language in our writing. Organization. What is organization all about? Can you think back to a time where you wrote about a narrative piece in the classroom and your teacher told you, excellent job on organization, or you need to work on organization skills? What is that all about? So parents, I'm just going to explain to you, some of you may not know. Organization is all about sequencing of ideas. Your ideas must be in a sequence, they must flow. You are graded 5 marks, or you are awarded 5 marks, that is the top mark you can get there, maximum, for organization. So 2 things I'm highlighting here. You get marks for sequencing of the plot, and then you have for paragraphs. So these 2 elements are very important when we are talking about organization. You must have a proper plot structure, so how you lay out your story, and then paragraphs. And we will also, again, like I said, be explaining paragraphs so that you will have a complete idea about what a paragraph entails, and what a perfect paragraph should look like. Finally, grammar and mechanics. So here you will also be awarded a maximum of 5 marks. Here you're going to get marks for parts of speech, punctuation, capitalization, and spelling. All of these here that I just listed, we will be discussing in ELA, which I will also be going through with you. So you wouldn't want to miss an episode of ELA or creative writing, and of course, mathematics, right? So here it's very important that you pay attention to these aspects in grammar and mechanics. So this is how your ELA is going to be tied in with your writing. Now I am showing you this rubric again. This rubric here is the report style writing rubric. It is the same as a narrative style writing rubric. Now, you're asking yourself, now, what is the difference between narrative and report style writing in the sense of marking the students using the rubric? First of all, Marks for content is the same 5 marks, but what is needed is different, because like I said, the format of a narrative style writing and the report style writing is very different, and we must know each style of writing. So your content in your expository piece or report piece must include relevant main ideas and supporting details. So that is explaining what is happening from the beginning of your report to the end of your report. Again, must be in a sequential order. Persons involved. When I say first name and surname, I will present to you an example of this later on, but I would like to mention now that when we are talking about persons involved and we say first name and surname, when you're writing a report, and if it's the first time you are introducing a character or a person in your report, you will give the first name and the last name to introduce that person. But if you are mentioning that person a second time, then you can just use either the first or the last name. Then you have location, where it occurred, date, and time. So notice already the difference in content of your narrative and of your report style writing. Language use is also different. What is different about it is that we use factual language. You will notice I have absence of figurative language and emotions. So in report style writing, we do not have figurative language, no similes, no metaphors, and we have no emotions. So if you're talking about an incident that occurred in the classroom and somebody was hurt and you saw blood, you cannot say you were sad, you cannot say you were horrified, you cannot demonstrate any emotion there, right? And I'm going to show you how you can talk about or write a report without emotions. It sounds a little challenging because the first thing we might say, okay, well, you describe how you feel. So I'm going to show you how you can write without description there. We have formal tone. So that means you can't use any slang or Creole style writing or dialogue in your writing for expository. It must be formal. And varied sentence types. Again, it's highlighted because this is what we are going to be focusing on a little later on. And organization. This as well is different from narrative organization. What is different about it is that you just have, well, the same introduction, body, and conclusion, but the way that you are writing it, the format will be different. It's not necessarily going to take 4 or 5 paragraphs. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4, and in that 3 or 4, you have all the information that is needed. Then you have to make your ideas logical. We said that already. And then you have to use appropriate transitional words. Transitional words are very important and sometimes very often left out by students when they are writing. So the transitional words, we'll look at those that can be used for narrative and those that can be used for report writing. So I know we are doing a lot of talking right now, but I do think it's very important that we discuss the paper fully before we jump right into it. We must understand what we are writing about, how the marks are distributed, and where you will lose marks or where you would gain marks. Sometimes you parents, when your child comes home and you ask to see their paper, their creative writing paper, and you see a mark 16 out of 20, but where did he lose his mark? Where did the 4 marks go? Sometime at the end, I know teachers write what they need to work on, but sometimes you don't fully understand what they mean by that. Here's an opportunity for you to understand and help your child in each of these different criterion here to work on it properly. Good? So we have grammar mechanics, which is the same for narrative style writing. It's very important that you have correct parts of speech, capitalization, punctuation, and of course, spelling. Like I said, each mark counts. It really does. So now, we are moving on to comparing both styles of writing. So we're going to talk about narrative, and we're going to talk about report writing. So that will be mostly the structure or the format for writing a narrative piece and for writing a report style piece. So in a narrative piece, the main purpose of a story is for entertainment. How many of you would agree with that? If you're reading a story, what is it for? It's most likely it is for entertainment. If you're writing a story, you write to make your story, like I said, come alive. You know, you want to bring excitement, joy. Well, it depends on the topic, really, right? But it is for entertainment. And we can achieve entertainment by the setting, the character, and the plot. And you might ask, how is that? It all depends on how you complete your setting, how you make your setting, the words and phrases you use to make your setting, as well as your character, choice of words again, and how you make your character develop their own personality and your plot. So in your narrative style writing, what I would just like to say is that the descriptive vocabulary appeals to senses. So here you have to use, in your narrative style writing, that is, you have to use your 5 senses. So when I say appeals to senses, that is what I mean there. You have to use your 5 senses in your writing to make your vocabulary very descriptive. Figurative language, similes, and metaphors. If you are not familiar with what a simile is or what a metaphor is, I suggest you do some revision until we get to that topic a little later on. And direct speech. Direct speech refers to dialogue. So you can have dialogue in your narrative style writing, but you cannot have dialogue in your report style writing. And transitional words and phrases, as I just mentioned, which I will provide for you a list. So your story structure. Here, when we talk about story structure, we are talking about the elements involved in narrative style writing. So you might be familiar with your character, your setting, your conflict, your resolution, and so on, right? So here, it's just a breakdown really of what each of these elements entail. You have your theme, which is what your topic could be about, what you are going to write about. Your exposition, that's the beginning of your story, and it's all about how you lay out your story. Your rise in action, the series of events that build suspense. What do you want to happen in your story? Are you thinking of a topic right now in your mind or something that you have written that you can think about rise in action? What was going on there? You know, were you building suspense? Was your story interesting? You have your climax. So now, what is your climax? Your climax is your high or major turning point of your story. So you reach the peak of your story now. It's really interesting. You really want to grab the attention of your reader. You know, so that is the climax there. Something, you know, is going to happen. Fall in action. This is where the events that occurs immediately after the climax, but before your resolution, right? So you just had a turning point, and now we want to talk about what is happening to lead to that resolution. Your conflict. This is not necessarily the order of your structure, but I just laid it out here for you. Your conflict can come earlier, or it can come probably to the middle of your story. And your resolution is, of course, how you are going to solve that problem. So what I would like to do, I just want to open up the lines a little bit. And what I want from you callers, just to tell me some of the problem areas you are experiencing with narrative or report style writing. So the parents can call me here, or even the student. Let me know what is happening with narrative and report, and let me know how well you are performing with that. In the meantime, I'm just going to go through report writing. So report writing, the purpose of report writing is to give information. Like I said, if you're writing a report about an incident or an experience or a field trip or a competition that you experienced, this is all based on experience. How is it done? What do you have to do to write report style writing? You should, of course, present facts. So whatever you are saying, don't use words like about and approximately and so on, but you just want to present strict facts. Tone must be formal and factual, which we already discussed. 3 events we are going to talk about here. transitional words. So transitional words, more or less the same as narrative, but we do have a few differences and a few that we like to use when we are writing, report writing, to make it more effective. And reported speech. So we are not using dialogue, we are using reported speech. And I'm going to show you how to use reported speech in your writing. Structure of a report, simple as it gets. Introduction, body, and conclusion. Like I said, it can be at least 3 or 4 paragraphs, maybe 5, right? So as long as you have all information needed in those paragraphs, you do not need to make it excessively long. So sometimes you sit there writing, wondering what to add. And this is where problems might occur. You know, you sit there and you think, okay, I can add probably a description here or figurative language here. But that's the mistake. Remember, we are not using figurative language, emotions, or any descriptions in our report style writing. So that's what I'm saying. You do not have to make it overly long. You do not have to add any of those things that I just listed there. Good. So now, before we move on, I just want to tell you all to stay tuned with us. We are going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Reduced sugar chubby with the same great taste. Lots of magic fruity flavors, drink the more healthy way.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Be active, be healthy, drink lots of chubby. Kicking football, playing cricket, having fun in the sun.
It's chubby.
Reduced sugar chubby keeps you cool and refreshed.
It tastes so yummy, chubby, chubby.
25% less sugar chubby. Jumping rope, running races, have fun.
It tastes so yummy, chubby.
Drink the more healthy way.
Let me hear you sing. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better.
Viva sparkling flavored water. Water but better.
Hi, good evening, and welcome back to C Results. So before the break, we were just discussing about the 2 styles of writing that you will be doing for SCA exam. Well, you wouldn't be doing the 2, but you'll have to choose one, whether it's narrative or report style writing. So now we are going to move on to start narrative writing, as you have long anticipated, right? But I am not going to be doing that. I'm going to be calling on my colleague, Ijaz, and he is going to be taking over for me from now on, and I'll see you back at 6 for ELA.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, viewers. My name is Ijaz, teacher Ijaz Ramsahai, and I will be taking you through this elementary phase in the narrative writing segment of our creative writing. Okay, so basically we just want to get the ball rolling on the different types of sentences that you can use in your narrative style writing. So here are the 4 main ones. Okay, we have simple or declarative sentences, right? And these are sentences that we use to state information. Okay, declarative sentences end in a full stop. For example, we have 2 examples over there. we have he took my pen and threw it in the bin. Simple sentence structure, gives you a bit of information without anything too detailed, right? He took my pen and he threw it in the bin. It describes an event, and it is quite simple, right? Or that's where it gets its name from, simple or declarative sentence. Okay? There's a second example we have, and that says that the beach is the perfect place for me. Okay? You're telling the reader something about yourself, that the beach is somewhere that you like to be. Okay, we could have said that in a lot more words, but a lot more colorful language. But for now, we're dealing with the simple or declarative types of sentences. So therefore, we express the idea as simply as possible, in that the beach is a perfect place for me. Straight to the point, sentence type 1. All right, next, we have the command or imperative type sentence, right? What is a command? We have the command or the imperative type sentences, and these sentences, they give commands or they make requests. Okay, so there are two ways in which we could do it, all right? As a direct command or as a request. And these sentences will either end with a full stop or with an exclamation point. All right, so as an example for a command, we have go to work, or more likely for you see results viewers, the kids out there, you might hear your mom in the morning saying, wake up, time to go to school, get up, head to the showers, hit the showers, get up, let's have breakfast. It's a command, it's imperative, right? For those of you out there, the young Muslims who are beginning to perform Salah, wake up for Fajr, That is the kind of thing that would fall under the ambit of a command or an imperative sentence. So we have go to work, we have wake up now, and we also have don't go, right? So the command could also be in the negative. It can be something to do, it can be something not to do. All right, don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie. Don't look at anything else while C results is on an IBN TV, right? Imperative command sentences. So you have to tune in, right? That's also a command. Great. As we move on, we learn that these sentences, they give commands or they make requests, right? As we already said, and that they end in the exclamation point or the full stop. Great. Now we're going to look at some examples as requests, right? So the requests, think about it. If you're dealing with somebody that's senior to you, somebody that, for instance, your teacher, you're not going to look at your teacher and say, pick up that pencil. If your pen was to fall off of the desk, that would be incorrect, right? So it's context. It has to do with the persons that are interacting, all right? You would like your teacher to pick up your pen, you're going to say it as a request. Please, sir, may you hand me my pen? It fell on the ground. That is also a command or imperative sentence, but it's given in the form of a request so that it's less forward, it's more polite, right? We can also ask, give me that bag, please. Or we could say, turn to page 20, right? Or please turn to page 20, right? And this would be the way to give a command as a request in a less direct and a less forward manner. And this is yet another type of sentence. So we had the simple sentence. Now, the simple or the declarative sentence. We have the command or the imperative sentence. We're going to move on now to a different type of sentence. Right? We have the question or the interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you all need to learn and familiarize yourself with these words. Some of these words might seem big and they might seem intimidating, but they need to form our vocabulary because they may turn up not only in a creative writing setting, they may turn up in an English language arts setting, so we need to be aware of what these words mean. A question or interrogative sentence has to do with, of course, the asking of questions. And question sentences usually end, or they would end actually, in a question mark. All right, so we have some more examples here to look at. Do you like to read? That is an example of a question or an interrogative sentence, and it ends in a question mark, right? Do you like to play football? Do you like to study? Do you like to do art? All of these things are, of course, interrogative questions, and we are familiar with them. We use them every day in language. Okay? Can you repeat the question? Right? So we have a question and a question there. All right? Who wants a sandwich for breakfast? Anything that you can think about that you would like to ask would fall under the category of the interrogative sentence. Great. All right, and we have the next type, or the fourth type. We have the exclamatory, the exclamatory sentence. Okay. Now, some of these words are a bit of a tongue twister, so take your time and try to pronounce them properly. And these sentences, they express emotion or excitement, and they end with an exclamation point as well. All right? Does anyone remember what other types of sentences might end with an exclamation point? Of course, we have the imperative or the command sentence. So you need to be able to decipher between the both of them. You might be asked in English language arts to identify the interrogative or, sorry, not the interrogative, the imperative or the command sentence from a sentence of exclamation or an exclamatory sentence, okay? So they end with an exclamation point. Be aware when you're reading as well, when you're interpreting the words on a piece of paper in a storybook, in a passage, we need to be able to identify which is which, all right? So, wow, he just won a gold medal, exclamatory sentence. Wow, Miss Nyla is doing an excellent job, right, on delivering the ELA and also delivering the creative writing, right? Thank you, Alim. You know, your partner just did you a great favor. He passed you the ball to score the winning goal in a game of football. Thanks, brother, you know, exclamation. It might also just be goal. You score a goal, so everybody on the team, they huddle together and they scream goal, as Cristiano Ronaldo does when he scores a goal, right? Or he actually says sí, which is yes in Spanish, but it's also an exclamatory sentence, right? Happy birthday, Miriam, right? Feliz cumpleaños as well in Spanish, because we have a lot of Spanish speakers now in Trinidad and Tobago. All right, exclamatory sentences, again, ending in an exclamation point. Fantastic. Let's go. All right, so just to recap, what are the four types of sentences? We have the declarative, simple sentence. We have the imperative or the command sentence. We have the interrogative sentence. We have the exclamatory sentence. And each of these four types of sentences are used to different effect in your writing and used to different effect even in your speech. All right. We must not forget that this is the English language, this is our native language, and that we should try to have a good command of it, all right? A good command over the language, because not only will it serve its purpose in your writing your exam, also when you leave school, when you get into secondary school, when you grow up, you become an adult and you enter the working world, your understanding and your knowledge of speech, your understanding of writing, right? Be it narrative, if you decide to become somebody that's a bit artistic, or if it's in report writing, you know, you're an academic, you're writing work about serious topics or news or journalism or whatever. They are all different ways or different facets of using the English language, and we need to have a good understanding and a good grasp of it. Okay, so pretty soon we'll be wrapping up for the Maghrib Salah. Afterwards, we'll come back for a quick segment where I'll again be demoing or explaining to you how to use the Edmodo app or the Edmodo website in order to do the little assignments and the quizzes that we have been providing. So far, we've only done for the first episode because we want to get as many people to do that one to make sure everybody's on board. All right. So far, we've had 61 people sign up for the class. We've had about 26 people doing the ELA assignment that was assigned, and about 24 doing the maths. So we have roughly 35 to 40 people still outstanding to do the assignments. Some of you all may want to hold back a little bit on the maths until we finish, because we didn't get to go all the way through the last time. But some people have made attempts and some have done exceptionally well. And with that, I leave you now for the Maghrib Adhan. Good evening.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. O Allah, owner of this perfect call and owner of this prayer to be performed, grant Muhammad the right of intercession and superiority, and send him to the best and highest place in paradise which you have promised him.
All right, good evening, assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to See Results, where you will, inshallah, God willing, be seeing results as you progress with us over the next coming weeks as we approach SEA 2020. Okay, so we just covered the 4 different types of sentences, and we just have a few more minutes for our creative writing segment, and within which I also want to speak a little bit about the Edmodo app, all right? For those of you who haven't been on board, again, we have on our timeline of the SEA results page the previous episode. You can have a look there where you'll get a lot of details on the ELA paper and the maths paper in the SEA, what it entails, what it requires of you, the different things that are going to be tested, how are they going to be tested, the types of questions, the number of questions. You know, we're aiming to give you as much information as possible so that you can be as prepared as possible, parents and students, and that by the grace of God, next year, when you write the SEA exam, you will be leaving that exam room with all smiles, no tears, feeling confident, feeling happy, and enjoying that very long holiday that we get before the results come out for SEA, all right? So, moving on, I just want to deal with a little tip of the day, all right? So I'm going to ask to switch to the screen here, great. Put together a list of synonyms, all right? A list of synonyms. What is a synonym? Synonyms are words that have the same meaning or that they convey very similar meaning, all right? So we need to start learning new words to replace the boring words. So here we have a great example for the word said, all right? We have snapped. We have chided, shouted, mumbled, continued, begged, whispered, groaned, etc. All right, we have a number of examples on the board. When would we use these? Somebody is responding to something and they're a bit short-tempered. We'd go with the snapped. All right, somebody is also in a bad mood. All right, they might say something and we might call it a hiss because it gives the impression, you know, of a snake hissing. All right. Somebody said something in a loud voice, we're going to use the word shouted. In a low voice, we can say that he or she whispered. All right, somebody is making a demand of something or a request in a very forceful way. We're going to say demanded. All right, if it's a thought within their head, of course, we're going to give the thought as speech, which is internal. All right, so the person might wonder something, and we will be privy to those thoughts in the piece of writing. Somebody might yell, somebody might say something, and it's in agreement with another character. So instead of saying he or she said, we can say he or she agreed. Okay? Blurted is to say something, you know, without too much forethought, just letting it slip out of your mouth. You can say something in a crying manner, you know, you're complaining about something. You can counter, you know. Counter would be to say something contrary to somebody or to give a reply or a rebuttal. You can declare so many different options for that one word, 'said', and you need to familiarize yourself with these words, all right? If only we could get you all to sit down with a dictionary and learn it off. That would be so fantastic. Of course, there's another way that you can do it, which is through reading, okay? Be in the habit of reading. Even if you hate reading, try to dedicate some time to reading, not just books that you have in your book bag. Try to get books and things that are interesting to you, that you will read, and so that you will benefit. You might memorize things, and it would be, of great help to you in your own writing, right? You need to be able to read in order to write. Great. So, finally, we're back to the Edmodo, all right? For those of you, again, who haven't subscribed, you're going to go to edmodo.com. You're going to go on to download the Edmodo app to your Apple device, your Android device, your Microsoft device, and they're going to ask you for a code after you create an account as a student, all right, preferably as a student on a parent's device under parent supervision, or alternately, you can create a student account and link a parent account to it. Parents, I'm begging and I'm pleading with you not to leave this solely in the hands of the kids, because the kids with the devices, they're going to get into a lot of mischief, all right? We want you to supervise them, all right? And when you create this account by using the code that is provided, you will become a member of C Results 2019-2020. And so far, we have posted 2 assignments, one for the ELA and one for the maths. Look for the posts by teacher Ijaz Ramsahai and teacher Naila Shah. You would see quizzes. You're going to click on those quizzes and you're going to do them. For those of you who missed out on the previous episode, if you want to have a look at that on the C Results Facebook page before you attempt it, feel free to do so and then attempt them. Some of you may want to wait again until we do maths complete, wrap up the place value segment, and move on to our next topic on Thursday before you do the assignment. Both are due next week, Monday at 4:59 p.m., by the way. And just as a side, for the creative writing, we are brainstorming some ideas to perhaps have you write paragraphs, write short stories, write little pieces of writing that we might be able to feature and to show the strengths and the weaknesses, where you can improve and so on. And as the program grows, as the viewership builds, and as you remain locked on, we will be bringing more exciting and more creative and fun interactive features for you, and we will find very nice ways to reward you for your efforts and for your hard work. I thank you so much for tuning in so far to our creative writing segment for today, and stay tuned at 6 p.m. We're going to have Miss Naila Shah back again with the English language arts. All right? Thank you. This has been Ijaz Ramsahai. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. See you all after the break.
Let me hear you sing. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better. Got to have my Viva, water but so much better.
Viva sparkling flavored water. Water but better.
Thanks for agreeing to our home loan. We only charge 5% interest, the best you can find out there. All you have to do is just sign right here and we will take care of you.
Is it really worth it? Honestly, do you seriously believe this interest transaction will benefit you? Before you sign away, please reconsider. Is it because you trust the bank's promise that your wealth and property will increase through interest-based loans? Are you unaware that Allah explicitly promises in the Quran that He will destroy all money earned through interest, while He increases in multitudes the wealth that is spent in charity? Do you trust the bank more than Allah? The bank that is infamous for its deception more than Allah? Allah, the one who owns the treasures of the heavens and the earths, the one who never breaks His promise? Surely if you trusted Allah with your wealth, you would spend it in charity and not destroy it through riba. Is it really worth it? Maybe you are seeking security through this interest transaction. Maybe you want to secure the comfort and safety of your children through buying a house or a car on riba. Would you still feel secure knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger declare war on those who deal with interest? What armor could you possibly defend yourself with? Surely the only security you have is to give up the interest today and save yourself from this calamity. Is it really worth it? Are you afraid to avoid interest because you fear poverty and hardship? Do you think Allah will neglect you like this? Allah loves those who sacrifice for Him and never lets them down. In fact, not only will Allah look after you, but He will repay every sacrifice you make with something better. As Allah says in the Quran, whosoever fears Allah, He will provide him a way out and provide for him from where he expects not. Is it really worth it? You would gladly refrain from consuming alcohol and pork because it's haram, but you would happily consume a lifetime of interest-based wealth, which is far more poisonous and harmful than both of these. Are you not aware that one of the biggest reasons for having your supplications and prayers unanswered by Allah is because of the haram you consume? Do you really want to risk Allah ignoring you for this? Is it really worth it? Maybe you are unaware of the gravity of the sin. You don't see it as harmful as committing adultery or fornication. Did you not know that the Prophet ﷺ said that the sin of riba is worse than 36 counts of adultery? Don't be fooled by the outer harmless appearance of this sin, for in fact riba is one of the 7 most destructive sins. Never underestimate the gravity of this sin. Is it really worth it? Maybe you are too attached to the luxuries you obtain through riba. Maybe the house you dream of and the car you wish to drive are too appealing to you. My brother, what happiness and enjoyment is there in anything other than obtaining Allah's pleasure? How could you possibly compare a temporary moment of luxury to the eternal and endless pleasure of Allah? My brother, my sister, don't be deluded by shaitan and his false promises. Interest will only lead to a lifetime of misery, despite the temporary enjoyments it may bring. Give up what remains of interest in your life and return to Allah. And if you are thinking of going ahead with it, turn around now. Allah will always accept you.
Great news! With Trinidad Fresh, you get 70% real fruit juice, and it's available in fruit punch, orange, and apple.
Trinidad Fresh.
Hi, good evening, and welcome to IBN. Thank you for joining me live right here on C Results. I'm Nyla, and I'll be taking you through the ELA aspect of the essay exam. Now, I know a lot of you are new, and we do welcome new viewers, and I was on a little earlier with the creative writing in the first half of the segment, and now I'm back with you, thankfully, and I would love for you to join me through the entire program today to complete our ELA lesson. Yesterday, we started off by discussing the ELA paper, the distribution of marks, how the marks are awarded, and we did even a sample of the task 1 in section 1 of the ELA paper. Now, I know a lot of you may not know, so I'm just going to repeat a few of those things. So, for example, the ELA paper is 75 minutes. So you're going to be given 75 minutes to complete that paper. It comprises of 2 sections. In section 1, you have task 1, 2, and 3, which is spelling, punctuation, and you have grammar. And then in section 2, you have your poetry, comprehension, and graphic. Yesterday, we started with section 1, task 1, which is spelling. So it may have looked similar to this. yesterday we did quite a few of these and we analyzed the errors, we went through the spelling rules. So I really hope that you did not miss yesterday's episode. Now if you did miss yesterday's episode, you're in luck. You can go back to our See Results Facebook page and there you would be able to view yesterday's episode of what we did. And I do encourage you parents and students, please do so, especially if you missed yesterday's episode. Now yesterday we covered a lot of content and lots of spelling rules that you use all the time. It's very pertinent to your writing and especially for creative writing, and of course as you can see in your ELA where it's actually tested individually. So yesterday we went through those rules and today I'll probably just reinforce one or two of them. And for those of you who didn't know, on our Edmodo app, and the Edmodo app is an educational app where you would be able to access this information. Not all of it, but a part of it. So like a quiz, for example, there we have set up quizzes for you, and you could go online and assess yourself after viewing the program. And I encourage you to go after so that you have the rules in mind and you don't rush basically, You want to get total 12 marks, and sometimes we do things, rushed, and we don't really want to do that, okay? We want to maximize all the time and all the benefits of this program. The aim here is really for see results, right? With us, of course, see results. So we have Standard 5 and Standard 4 pupils tuning in to gain from these lessons. We also encourage parents, if you have younger children, even in the Standard 3 class, encourage them to sit on the sofa with you, look at the program with their siblings, and gain from this. Have a notepad in front of you, a pencil or whatever, take notes. And the most interesting part that we had some really good feedback with yesterday, you can actually call in. Our lines will be up shortly, and when we start today's aspect of it, I do encourage you callers to call us, participate and give us answers, help us answer these questions. Both numbers on the screen there, but just for today, we would only be taking calls on the 645 number. So please call that 645 number, 645-4426, right? Our other line is down, unfortunately, but you have that line there, so please feel free to call. So jumping in, right, one time, we are going to review what we did yesterday. Good, so it's a little bigger there, hopefully a little easier for you to see. Yesterday, we went through the task 1 or some task 1 pieces, and we analyzed, we identified the error, and we had the correct spelling. Now, as I was saying, here in task 1, you will be awarded 12 marks. Here, you are only seeing 6 items, but these 6 items actually worth 12 marks. And how is that possible? Because first of all, you have to identify your spelling error, and then you have to correctly spell the word in the space provided there. So you're earning a mark for incorrect spelling, and your second mark will be for correct spelling. If you, however, forgot to underline the error here, but you still went and you had the correct spelling, you will still be awarded 2 marks. However, I do encourage you to read your instructions carefully. Sometimes we are so busy, you really want to finish your paper, or you're just so nervous, you want to get it over with. Please take your time, read your instructions, and then begin working. So let's look at the first piece we have on the board here. Yesterday I mentioned that we should read this piece at least 2 times before attempting to answer the questions. It's important that you read these lines very carefully and closely so that you will identify the correct error. Okay? So let's read. Carnival is an impressive spectacle. It helps the. So again, you should read that. So I'm going to give you a chance. Read that first line again. I'm going to give you an opportunity to probably circle it or write it in your book, then correct spelling, and write the correct spelling next to it. Good. Now, if you chose the word spectacle, you are correct. Now, the rule that I highlighted yesterday with this K, spectacle, that K sound or K sound, spectacle, if you say that word, you will understand what I mean a little better. Spectacle, it's the hard C sound, which gives gives you the idea that it is a K, but in fact it's really a C. So that hard C sound, you might mistakenly write a K instead of a C. So the correct spelling of that should be spectacle. Notice the difference here is that C. It is a hard C sound, but in your correction, it is actually a C rather than a K. So I hope most of you got this correct, especially if you were tuning in yesterday, because this is one of the rules that we discussed yesterday. And I do hope that you wrote it down, or you're going to write it down so you will remember it. Right? Let's move on to line 2. Remember, the lines are open. Please call the 645 number to tune in. Country earn foreign exchange as tourists spend. So think about it. What's your error there? So I'm just going to go ahead here. It's foreign. What is wrong with the word foreign? Now, yesterday, I also went through this rule here. I don't know how many of you can remember. So I'm going to write the correct spelling here. Right. So yesterday we went through the IE rules. So I before E except after C. And then we have, of course, our exceptions. So you must remember those. Right? Moving on. Their money on expensive costumes. They love the. So, tell me, what's the error there? If you had costumes, you are quite correct. Now, what is wrong with the word costumes? Think about it. Costumes. Our difference here, there's a U here, but I put an O. So you can mistakenly write a U instead of that O for that sound, costumes. Let's move on. Steel pan music and dancing to the sweet sounds of. Examine each word closely and try to identify the correct error. If you have selected the word dancing, you are quite correct. Because the rule here, when we are adding ing, the inflectional ending ing, to a verb, we drop the E and then we add ing. So it now becomes dancing. Dancing without an E. There is no E there. Moving on. Our calypsos, carnival is also attractive because of. Now, if I were in this situation, I would probably think calypsos is an error. But it really is not an error. Calypsos there is just the plural of the word calypso. So that's not our error. Our true error here, attractive. Attractive. Here, it should be A-T-T-R-A-C-T-I-V-E. The word attractive here has two T's. Notice there's a vowel before, and then we double the consonant. Now that rule does not always apply, but it does help. So you need to remember that. And this is a commonly misspelled word. So you have to be careful once again with your spelling. Spelling is very important. This is the spelling aspect of your paper. You want to get a total of 12 marks here. In your last line of your task 1, it's numerous bands of masqueraders. Now, some of you, you're thinking numerous, but that's not our error. So if you had masqueraders as your error, give yourself a little clap. You are quite correct. Masqueraders. So the difference here, you have ARS, masqueraders. It does sound like ARS, but you must know the difference in spelling. It's ERS, and that's quite a common error, okay? Again, in commonly misspelled words. So we are just doing one example in task 1. Yesterday we covered quite a bit. I just did this for review. For those of you who are now joining us, this is what we basically covered yesterday, and I encourage you to go on the See Results page on Facebook and have a recap, have a look, have your child engage in the activities and let them do the questions there. And again, they can go to Edmodo, www.edmodo.com, register with us and take the quiz. And there also you will have an opportunity to take a test for yourself, one similar to what we have here. So let's move on to what we are really going to do in today's lesson in ELA. Punctuation. Punctuation is a tricky topic, right? You have to be careful and you have to know when to use which punctuation. And that's what I'm here for. I'm going to take you through a few of the punctuations and you're going to see how to use them. And then I'm going to give you examples, just like we did, which is actually task 2 in the ELA paper. So you will have an opportunity to call us and probably help us out in getting some of the answers. First piece we have here. So again, I encourage you to read your piece carefully, analyze it, look at it very closely, and then you can detect your error. So what we are going to do first, we are going to go through the entire 6 lines, and then we are going to go through it one by one individually as we find what is a missing punctuation, and then we'll look at when to use which punctuation. You would notice why you are seeing 7 to 12 here, this is just continuing with the numbering. Previously we had numbers 1 to 6, this is just 7 to 12 in the paper. This section is actually worth 6 marks only. You will be awarded 1 mark per line if you have the correct form of the punctuation needed. You are not going to write your punctuation mark in this box, however, because then if you say in your first line your punctuation that is needed is a comma, then how will the examiner know where that comma is needed? So rather than writing it in a box here as we did with spelling, what we are going to do actually, we are going to insert it in the writing. So if I'm supposed to have a comma here, and we actually have to write your comma within the line. Great. So let's look at this piece closely. Caribbean corn soup has special ingredients, vegetables. So what we are going to do, we're going to read the entire piece, and then we're going to analyze it line by line. Caribbean corn soup has special ingredients, vegetables, meat, and coconut milk. In your mind already, the first thing that should click is that you have stuff listing out. They are listing things. So what do I use when they are listing items? Hi, we have a caller on the line. I'm just going to take this.
Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, caller. Where are you calling us from?
I am calling from over Laventille.
Okay, and what's your name?
Javid.
Are you writing essay, Javid?
Yes.
How do you feel about essay? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see how ready you are, right? So in line 1, can you tell me what is the error there? Or not error, rather, but where I should put the punctuation mark?
Ingredients.
Yeah.
Colon.
Excellent job. Colon. Right after the word ingredients. How did you know to put a colon there?
Because the saying like vegetables, comma, meat, and...
Very good. So what can help you there? You know they are listing things.
The examples.
Right. Excellent job. Thank you so much for calling in. So his answer is very correct there. It is indeed a colon needed after the word ingredients. Also, what's a hint here? One of the hints that you would have seen, like he said, you had the word vegetables, meat, and so on. So they go on to list items. So when we are listing items, we use a colon. But don't worry, I have that written down for you soon after. So if you need to jot that down, just hold your pencil a minute and let's take this. Okay, we have another call on the line. Hi, caller, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon.
What's your name? Where are you calling us from?
Kirabo Street.
And what's your name?
Mr. Francois.
Thanks for joining us. So we have line 2 here. Would you like to give us the answer here?
Yes.
What's your
S, capital S, the spices.
To begin the word spices. Great job.
Yes.
So the caller is very correct there again. We should have a capital S. Now you do not need to circle that. I just circle it so you will be able to see it there. So maybe I should erase that. Right. So you would notice here. You would notice here. You would notice here that there's a common S. But what is important here? What is important here is that there's a common S, but it should rather be a capital S. For spices, there's a full stop before. We have a call on the line.
Hello?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling. What's your name?
Hayden Mohammed.
And where are you calling us from?
Pinal.
Pinal. Okay, done. Can you give us the answer for line 3?
Capital apostrophe S.
So spell that for me and insert the apostrophe.
S-O-U-P.
Yeah.
Apostrophe S.
Excellent job. Can you tell me how did you know to put an apostrophe S there? Caller, are you there? Okay, thank you so much for calling. So I'm just going to mention it real quick. So the apostrophe S here shows ownership. Again, we will be discussing this shortly. Let's move on. Throughout the region, people cook soup with varied levels of heat. Now, this is a little difficult one, but I know a lot of you will get it. So I'm just going to give it a second to see if we have a call on the line to try line 4. I would really love if somebody can attempt this one here. We have a call on the line.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. What's your name and where are you calling us from?
I am Ariana Chow and I'm calling from Sunny Grande.
Okay, very nice of you to join us. Can you answer for me line 4? Give us the correct answer there. Which punctuation should I use?
After region is a comma.
Excellent job. That's really great. How did you know that? What was your clue?
You could hear the pause while you read the sentence.
Okay, that's great. Excellent job. Thank you so much for calling. Right, so my explanation there might just be a little different, which the caller is very correct, but I just want to add, throughout the region there, that's a dependent clause. So some of you might be familiar with the term, some of you may not. I will go through what is a dependent and independent clause and why we require a comma there. Moving on, people cook soup with varied levels of heat. So we have another call on the line. I'm going to take this again.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for joining us. What's your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Ijaz.
Ijaz, yes, and where you're calling us from?
Maloney Gardens.
Okay, Ijaz, tell me, what's the answer in line 5 there?
The answer in line 5, after the quotation mark, it is a question mark.
Okay, so stop. You are correct in the sense that it's a question mark, but where am I putting the question mark? After the quotation here or where?
After the last quotation.
Okay, so let me just correct you there. While you have the correct punctuation, it should actually be a question mark and then close quotation. Whatever your punctuation should be, whether it's a full stop or a question mark, we have that inside of our punctuation. But thank you so much, and I do applaud the excellent effort. So I just want to mention again that your punctuation should indeed be inside your quotation marks. So you have your quotation there, but it should be question mark, close quotation. Moving on to line 6. We have, my father often says, spicy corn soup is food for the soul. Let's see what's happening there. Spicy corn soup is food for the soul. Any takers on this one? We have a call on the line.
Open quotation mark is the answer.
Okay, so before you answer, can you give me your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Afifa Mohammed. I am calling from Kullaha Road, Charleville.
Okay, thanks so much. And what's your answer here?
Open quotation mark by
Where?
spicy.
By spicy. Excellent job. So you should actually have quotation marks there. Can you tell me why?
Because it has a comma here.
All right. And what else?
Because by the end of soul, it has a quotation mark. So the front has to have a quotation mark too.
That's excellent. So that's a hint there. Thank you so much for calling. So that's a hint. Here you have quotation marks. So that gives you a hint, even if you're not sure the justification of why we should use open quotation marks. Here's a hint for you. You have closed quotation marks, so you should have open quotation marks. What I would like to add is that this is dialogue, this is speech. You have my father often says. This is what he is saying. Whatever you are saying, and it is dialogue, we put in quotation marks. You will notice here, inside these quotations, to the end here, we have a full stop. So that is similar in this case where you have a question mark and then close quotation. Whatever your punctuation is, it is inside your quotation marks. Okay, so that was really great, and thank you so much for calling in and giving us your 2 cents on that. You all are a really great audience. Please stay tuned with C Results, and we're just going to take a short break and come right back.
Keep refreshed with Oasis Premium Purified Water. Now available in more thirst-quenching options. 330 ml, 600 ml, 1.5 liter, and 5 liters. Choose the size that fits you best. Grab one today.
IBN can be viewed on the go now with the Airlink TV app for Google devices. Simply go to the Google Play Store, search for the Airlink TV app. Download the app, click on the link and fill out the form. The account activation will be emailed or texted to the user. It's safe as no credit card is needed. The first 30 days are free and you can subscribe and receive a box for your TV to stream the same content.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening, and thank you for joining me back right here with C Results live on IBN. So before the break, what we were doing, we were going through a sample piece in task 2 of the ELA paper. Here you had the opportunity to call in and give us the answer line by line, inserting the correct punctuation. This is the first piece that we did, just in case you are now tuning in. This is the first piece that we did. You have not missed so much as yet. So the important part is coming up now. We have just recognized where we need to insert the correct punctuation. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to line by line examine the punctuation that was just inserted and talk about when it should be used. For example here, if you can just make that a little bigger there for the viewers, great. So we had colon there after the word ingredients in our first sample piece. I just want to talk about the use of colon. Now, the uses that I'm going to mention here is not limited. I'm just going to mention the few that are relevant to our lesson today. And if any other use arises while we are learning, I will mention the use of the colon in that specific context. So for today, I'm just going to mention the use of a colon, which is to introduce a list of things a list of things as well as a dependent clause. Now, if we go back here, we will notice that here is a list of things. We have vegetables, meat, and coconut milk. There we are given a list, so we know we should use a colon here too before we start listing items. The second use, a dependent clause. A dependent clause is a clause that cannot stand on its own. And what I mean by that, we have throughout the region, and we had a comma here. And that is what a dependent clause is. We need to insert a comma there after dependent clause. It cannot stand on its own. Like the caller said, even when you are reading it, it's a hint for you. You need to take a short pause. And what better way to do that than to use a comma? So let's move on there. Our second error was that of a capital letter. We had to insert or replace that common S before with this capital S because it starts a new sentence. So when do we use capital letters? We use capital letters at the start of sentences. We use them for proper nouns. We use the letter I in the middle of a sentence. So if you are writing a sentence, and in the sentence you have I, that I should actually be written in a capital I rather than a common I. And for acronyms. So let's look at the examples here and see what I mean by each of those. At the start of a sentence, so we're starting the sentence here. Sauda is driving. This is the start of my sentence. Sauda is driving. Aside from the fact that it's a proper noun, we know this is the beginning of a sentence. So even if I had she, this S here would still be capital S. And just a reminder, some of you write your words like this. And you see this is a capital S. Please differentiate between your letters. Mine isn't written very well here because of the space. But please, just for the marker's sake, differentiate between your common letters and your capital letters, even if you have the habit of writing very tiny. Okay? So let's move on there. We have for proper nouns. Again, soda here is a proper noun. Next Wednesday, we will go to the mall. The word Wednesday is also a proper noun, so we again should use a capital letter when we are writing the word Wednesday or to begin that word. Letter I in the middle of a sentence. Kate and I. And I. So it should not be common I like that. Rather, it's a capital I because it is in the middle of your sentence. Notice, if I have the word friends and I have the letter I in the word friends, I have the letter I in the word friends here. Notice this is a common I. It is in between a word rather than single out by itself. So this is a common mistake that a lot of students make, and I just want you to remember that you use capital I when it's by itself. And we use capital letters also for acronyms. Acronyms. So this might sound a little, probably not so familiar to you, but when you see this acronym here, LOL, you are quite accustomed to the acronym LOL, LOL, which stands for laugh out loud. So when we are writing this in text, it should actually be capital L, capital O, capital L again. Okay? So these are some of the uses here for capital letters that we will come across daily in our writing. Anything that we are writing, ELA, creative writing, mathematics, doesn't matter the subject, you use capital letters. You must remember your rules for when using capital letters, when to use them. That's very important. Thirdly, we had this error. So we had to insert an apostrophe here to make it apostrophe S. So soups, flavor. Now, what is important about that apostrophe there? Here I'm going to talk about the use of apostrophe. So we have apostrophe S and then we have S apostrophe. Please note that there's a difference between apostrophe S and S apostrophe. What is the difference, you might ask? The difference is such that both of them actually shows possession. But if, like in the name John, and I want to say John's car, so the car belongs to John, I will say apostrophe S. The name John does not end with an S. So I say John's car. But in the case here, Travis's bag, the name Travis ends with an S, so that makes it easy for you. So if you want to show ownership to the bag there, you will just simply add an apostrophe to the end of that name to make it Travis's bag. Same ownership, difference is the apostrophe S and S apostrophe. Let's just take it back a little bit here. As I was talking about the use of apostrophe S and S apostrophe. But what I would like to tell you is that the apostrophe can be used to form a contraction. What is a contraction? How many times a day do you use contractions in your writing? We often do. We even use it in our language and speaking. So for example, I have the word can't. Can't, short for what? Cannot. So if I want to make the word cannot short, I change it, I contract it, and I use the word can't. To make that short, that's a separate rule, but I'm just going to give you the short version here. I use apostrophe T. That apostrophe there is quite important in making your contraction. In forming the contraction, or the shortened form of the word should not, I have shouldn't. This apostrophe here replaces that not, makes it one. So it's a shortened form of the word should not, and now I have shouldn't. How did I get shouldn't? I simply added apostrophe. Simple here, similarly here in the word won't, right? Would not. Let's move on. Our next error, or where we had to insert a different punctuation, was in the word region, or in the phrase throughout the region. The reason we inserted a comma there was because it is a dependent clause. And I'll get to what a dependent clause is shortly. For now, I want to show you some uses of a comma. We have actually two here, but I changed it, and it's actually three uses we're going to discuss. So the first use of a comma there is to separate a series of words. So what I mean by that, look at this example. Megan bought apples, bananas, plums, and cherries at the market. What is my series of words there? These are the things that she bought, apples, bananas, etc. So this here is my series. It's my list. So to separate that series or that list there, I'm using commas. Second use there will be after a dependent clause. So a dependent clause is a clause which cannot stand on its own, as in the case of this earlier example, throughout the region. We must add something else there to complete that sentence. So similarly, I have, if the dress is on sale, comma, she will buy it. If the dress is on sale, is that sentence complete? Is it a dependent clause or independent clause? How will you know? You must know if that clause can stand on its own or if it cannot stand on its own. So if you are not familiar with this rule here, or use rather, please put it into practice, start using it in your writing. So unlike the caller rightfully said, a hint is such that you need to pause. Even in reading, it gives you a hint. If the dress is on sale, she will buy it. Say it out, and that will help you in your writing even. So I just want to go to my next punctuation here. It should actually be, before I do that, I actually almost forgot to mention this use of a comma here. This one I thought necessary to add in because we use it in report-style writing, mostly. We do use it in narrative, but in report-style writing, it's very common. So we have to use commas to separate nouns in apposition. What do I mean by apposition? So I have two nouns next to each other, and they explain in each other. So nouns in apposition, nouns that explain or clarify each other. So for example, Mr. Daniel, our school principal, was very unhappy with our results. I have first comma here, and I have my second comma here. This is my first noun, and this is my second noun phrase there. So notice I have two nouns that are next to each other, nouns in apposition. To separate nouns in apposition, we use commas. Look at example 2. Sally, the hairdresser, loves to watch movies. My first noun, my second noun there. So here, you can transfer it to your report style writing. Mr. Daniel, our school principal. So sometimes you're writing a report and you need to mention 1 or 2 persons. This is how you can do it. You want to say one thing about that person and add something else. This is how you can do it. Mr. Daniel, our school principal, and you must insert your commas. Please use your commas appropriately. Right. Now we are moving on to the 5th punctuation here, where we have to insert a question mark. When do we use a question mark? I think you know. It's to the end of a question, right? This one is very simple. We have been doing this a long time now, so you should be familiar with when you use a question mark rather, to end a direct question. For example, if I'm asking a question, what is global warming? Why is grass green, or why is the grass green? My keywords here for questions are my W words. You are familiar with your 5 W's and your H. Here is an example of them. Anytime you are using your 5 W's and H, that's most likely because you are going to write a question. So those 5 W's and H will help or indicate to you that you need to have a question mark to the end of your question there. So what is global warming? I have my W word and I have my question mark. It's a question. Right, last line now. We have open quotation marks here. And I explained this a little earlier where I said that this was dialogue, speech. And a hint was such that the end of it had closed quotation marks. So if the end has closed quotation, where is it opening? It did not open anywhere. You need to open them. You need to insert them. And the caller indicated that we should put it here, which is quite correct. So another clue was such that my father often says. Here somebody is saying something. So once there's this dialogue, once you use the word say, shouted, exclaimed, whatever it is, you know it's speech, right? We have a variety of words for that, which we will later come across. So that was simple enough. I hope you took note of all of those little uses. You do come across them every day when you're using and doing your practice booklets. Those are some key terms that you need to remember. And to help you remember it, the best way you can do that, you can practice. Put it into practice. Jot down your rules, probably make up a piece yourself and test yourself. Also, I will add a test on Edmodo, probably to the end of the week, where I will give you a piece where you will have to insert the correct punctuation. And there, you will be able to assess yourself and get your mark immediately. So parents, remind your kids at the end of this week, they have another assignment there to do. Good. So quotation marks, I'm just wrapping up with this last use here. In speech, we have to use quotation marks, as we just said. So for example, at the beginning, you can say, use your quotation marks like this. The car is red. You notice your comma is here, and then you have close quotation. Your punctuation is inside your quotation, as I just mentioned, with your question mark and your full stop. It's inside your punctuation. If you are using quotation at the beginning, I think it had, okay, right, sorry, at the end there, this is how you will use it. You will say the speaker, whoever is the speaker, said, shouted, exclaimed, remarked, whatever is it, your choice of words, and then put whatever they are saying in quotation marks. Notice once more, my full stop is inside of my punctuation mark. And if you are writing a dialogue and you choose to have your quotation marks on both sides of the speaker, this is an example here. The car, notice, comma inside quotation, you have your quotation marks. He said, she said, Mary said, and then you have your remaining of your sentence there again in quotation marks with your full stop inside your quotation marks. That's key to remember. Oh, and this is another one that we need to remember when we are naming objects in writing. So sometimes you are writing, whatever it is, mostly story writing, narrative writing, and you want to mention something. So you might say, Harry Potter was a great book. Harry Potter in quotation marks there. I love the movie Frozen. And you put whatever you are highlighting in quotation marks, probably for emphasis and so on. So we have here another example Another example. So I again encourage callers to probably sneak a few calls in before our time is up. We have a short time again, so let's see how quickly we can wrap this up. Right, so you have to read your piece twice. Read it carefully. Remember, we have to put in the missing punctuation there. So you have to insert the missing punctuation. So let's look at line 1 there. Healthy foods contain numerous nutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and various minerals. We should all eat nutritious and balanced meals. Don't you agree? The next time your mom instructs, eat your vegetables, you should not hesitate. Poor diets may lead you straight to San Fernando General Hospital. So you should read that twice. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to read it and start putting in your missing punctuation. Insert your punctuation correctly. Remember the few rules that we just went through, so that will help you. It's very similar to this piece. That will help you in inserting the correct punctuation in this task here. So healthy foods contain numerous nutrients, proteins. And just remember, our lines are open. Please feel free to call that 645 number. Healthy foods contain numerous nutrients, proteins, and we go on here, notice, to list items. Proteins, possible, just make, yes, thank you. So proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and various minerals. You would notice here that they listed items. So when we are listing items, which punctuation do we use? So if you had nutrients, colon, give yourself a little clap. You are quite correct. So we need to have a colon before we start listing items. Let's look at line 2. Carbohydrates, vitamins, and various minerals. Look at it closely. At first sight, it appears that everything seems correct. But remember, in each line, there is a missing punctuation mark. So it's up to you now to look at this very closely and insert that missing punctuation. If you had a comma between carbohydrates and vitamins, that is also correct. So this here is to separate. These are to separate nutrients. So to separate items in a list, we use a comma. Moving on to that third line there. We should all eat nutritious and balanced meals. Balanced meals. Don't you agree? So look at it closely. And we have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to IBN. See results.
Good evening.
Hi, what's your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Juliana St. Jude. My name is Juliana St. Jude.
Okay, can you attempt line 3 for us? Can you give us a missing punctuation there?
Apostrophe.
T. Apostrophe.
T.
Can you spell the correct word for me?
D-O-N apostrophe T.
Excellent job. Thank you so much for that, caller.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so we have apostrophe T. Here we have the contraction don't, which comes from do not. And similarly, what we just learned, or what I just reminded you of, is that you need to have an apostrophe in your contraction. We use apostrophes to form contractions, as in that case there. Let's move on to the next line. So we're going to read it like this. Don't you agree? The next time your mom instructs, eat your. We have a caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
It's our first stop after degree. Agree?
Okay, so I'm going to give you one more chance. I'm going to put the full stop here. But I want you to try again. What else can it possibly be? Read it like this. We should all eat nutritious and balanced meals. Don't you agree? If I say it like don't you agree, what punctuation do you think I should have there?
A question mark.
A question mark. Excellent job. So you must read it as you would write it. So thank you so much, caller. You are quite correct. We should all eat nutritious and balanced meals. Don't you agree? This don't you agree, this don't you hear is your indication that you need a question mark after the word agree. Someone is asking you if you agree with something. Moving on, the next time your mom instructs, eat your vegetables, you should not hesitate. Poor diet may lead. A caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Hi, can you help us with line 5?
Yes, after vegetables, exclamation mark, put close quotation mark.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Thank you so much for that. Eat your vegetables. You should not hesitate. Again, mom instructs is your clue. This is your speech here. So we have hint, open quotation, therefore we must have close quotation. What you should also note, your quotation marks once more is after your exclamation point. It is after your exclamation point. So let's move on. You should not hesitate. Poor diet may lead you straight to San Fernando General Hospital. We have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling us from?
My name is Ichaz.
Yes. Can you help us with line 6?
Yes, I can.
Okay. What's your answer there?
For Fernando, it's supposed to be a capital F.
Very good. Why?
Because it's a proper noun.
Proper noun. Excellent job. Thank you so much. So here, capital F, because it's a proper noun, as the caller rightfully said. So that was quite simple, but still not as simple as you may think, because you need to take your time and complete this with total accuracy. You need to skim it through, very closely. So 640. Right. So let's see here. We have another piece. And once more, we are going to examine this piece and insert the missing punctuation. I have a caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Caller, good evening.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, so we're just starting this third example here. So just in case you didn't have a look, so let's look now. I won, shouted Penelope in excitement. Penelope. What do you think is the missing punctuation there? Think about it. You're seeing quotation marks. You're seeing a full stop. Penelope, which is a proper noun.
My phone kind of slow.
Your phone, sorry? That's okay, take your time. I'm just going to give you a hint. Here I have open, and here I have close quotation marks. And I'm going to read it like this for you. I won, shouted Penelope in excitement.
Or the exclamation mark.
Exclamation mark. Where am I putting that exclamation mark?
Before the close quotation mark.
Excellent job. Very good.
Thank you.
There I have exclamation mark. It expresses emotions, right? So good job there. Let's move on to line 2. Penelope is standard for student has entered a competition entitled. Any takers on this one? Look at it closely. Penelope is standard for student has entered a competition entitled. This here is where we use a comma for nouns in opposition. So Penelope, as I was saying for report writing where this may occur, you would need to say Penelope is standard for student, comma. Here we have nouns in opposition. We have Penelope is standard for student, that noun phrase there. Nouns in opposition. So my second comma will be right after the word student. Had entered a competition entitled Keep Your School Clean. It was sponsored by the. So I'm just going to give you this quickly. We're almost out of time, so I'm just going to wrap it up. Here we have open quotation marks. Now, the difference in this open quotation mark is not that because of dialogue, but this open quotation mark is because we are naming something. Here, we are naming an object in writing or giving a title in quotation marks. So you want to create emphasis on it, highlighted there. It was sponsored by the Arima Borough Corporation. Penelope 1, numerous. Your punctuation that should be here should be capital C. Corporation there, proper noun. It is actually Arima Borough Corporation, and corporation is part of that entire name. So it must be a capital C. Penelope won numerous prizes, a digital camera, posters, and videos about ways. So your answer here, or your missing punctuation, should be prizes, colon. Why prizes, colon? Because here now we're going to list all the things that Penelope won. So when we are creating a list, we have your colon there. We insert a colon. And your last line, to keep the environment clean. And this one is very simple, quite common, full stop. Right? The full stop, we use a full stop at the end of a sentence. So thank you so much for joining us today. What we did, I'm just going to recap really quickly. We went through yesterday's assignment or task 1 in the ELA paper, where we spoke about the rules pertaining to the task 1, spelling. So we went through quite a couple pieces of the spelling, and we examined each line, we identified the error, and we corrected the error. In correcting the error, we discussed each rule that pertains to that spelling, right? So it was quite a number of rules. Please, if you missed it, go on to See Results page on Facebook and look at the video from yesterday. Encourage your child to do the same and gather as much information as you can from that. That was quite beneficial. Today we started with task 2 in section 1 of the ELA paper. Task 2 is about punctuation and capitalization. So today we went through a few pieces where we had to insert the missing punctuation or capital letters. And we had very good feedback and interaction with students, and I applaud you so much for calling, and parents for allowing your child to sit with us and go through this step by step. This is what we really want. We want full engagement, we want participation, and we do encourage it. We do love it very much. And as we move on, I just want to mention that ELA is on every Monday and Tuesday at 6. So every Monday and Tuesday, stay tuned for ELA. We have mathematics, ELA, and creative writing Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Please, if you miss an episode, go to the See Results page and try to catch up there. So usually, I like to give a tip of the day to help you with your studies, to get you going, to motivate you. So today, I just want to tell you to create a punctuation chart and hang it where you'll be able to see it and read it every day. So if it's in front of your mirror, by your bed as you enter the door. If it's a car door you want to stick it, probably ask mommy for that. But behind the seat where you will be seeing it on your way to school. It's important that you do this so you remember where to use your punctuation marks correctly. Here's a sample punctuation chart. You can create your own. A lot of you may be very creative, so create your own. Create something that will help you learn. And one more thing before I go, Edmodo. Edmodo is an educational app where you will be able to register with us, create an account, sign up your child as well as yourself, your parent that is, and you will be able to take a quiz with us. So whatever the task of the day is or the lesson of the day is in studio, whatever we are doing, we put up a quiz and we encourage students to take that quiz. Upon taking the quiz, you will be graded immediately, right? So you can see for yourself how helpful is this class, or how well are you doing. Our aim here is to help you as much as possible and to provide as much information as we can. So that's about it for Time For Me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to tune in Thursday again. We have mathematics and we have creative writing. If you missed any part of today's segment, please go to See Results page, give us feedback, and tune in to today's program. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining me on See Results.
Refresh with Oasis Premium Purified Water. Now available in more thirst-quenching options. 330 ml, 600 ml, 1.5 liter, and 5 liters. Choose the size that fits you best. Grab one today.